several people have joined the call, and others are probably in the process of logging into our WebEx webinar, so we hope to see everyone online shortly. This is Gail Azaroff, and I am the Vice President of Sales and Business Development at Adiana, and I will be serving as your moderator today. Just some brief housekeeping information before we get started with our presentation. We do want to ensure that we will have the opportunity to address any questions that you are thinking about during the presentation. So we're going to ask that you use the chat function, and then at the end of the presentation we will actually have a Q&A session and be able to provide the answers to the questions received. If you are experiencing any technical difficulties, we ask that you call Intercall and have provided the 888 number for you and the reference meeting number. And then in case you would like to hear the webinar again or share it with team members, this webinar is being recorded today, and an archived copy will be sent to you via email the day after the webinar. So we'll be sending it out to you tomorrow. So now we're going to begin our webinar session. I'll kick things off, and then I'll be handing it off to Dwayne Cotty, who will serve as our presenter. We'd like to begin by introducing you to Adiana. Adiana is a global learning and consulting company that partners with federal government agencies to optimize their success through improving performance, processes, and technology. We've been supporting the federal government for 17 years, and we have developed a broad base of learning management system and talent management system experience. As the matrix highlights, we have provided our services to over 12 federal agencies in support of their learning management or talent management system programs. We do have an engaging agenda for you today. We're going to be covering several topics, the first being enterprise solutions, purpose and benefits, then rollout and operational challenges, building awareness, driving positive perception, improving user acceptance, methods for increasing utilization, and finally, metrics, measurement, and ROI analysis. Our presenter this afternoon is Dwayne Cotty, who is Adiana's General Manager of On-Site Services, and I'm going to turn the presentation over to Dwayne now.
Thank you, Gail. Before we dive into today's materials, we're going to put up a poll, 3 very short questions that can be answered with a yes-no, just to get a little feedback from you and some of the challenge areas that you may be having that we've experienced when working with a number of organizations across the federal sector. The first question is, are you currently or have you ever had to overcome negative perceptions related to your TMS? The second is, do you believe that your users have been adequately informed about what your TMS can provide to them? And the third being, are you having difficulty getting business organizations to sign on to what your TMS has to offer? So these are just simple yes-no questions. Feel free to just jump in and put your answer down. And I think what we're going to be covering today, if you answered yes to any of these questions, really will give you a lot of good ideas that we've used with a number of our organizations that we've worked with in the federal sector to kind of support them in overcoming these challenges. So to start off with, let's talk a little bit about why organizations have implemented talent and learning management systems. Initially, a lot of the federal government agencies really hit upon a presidential initiative that, as it was laid out, was looking to try and find ways to take multiple systems that had similar capabilities across their departments and combine them into singular enterprise solutions that could provide the same benefit department-wide while not requiring as many resources to support them. And in addition to that, as internet technologies and web-based training became more prevalent, the department was looking at more cost-efficient means to get mandatory training out to all your employees. But there's a lot of side benefits that gain from this as well. The ability to centralize access to all online training in one location. The ability to distribute enterprise-wide required training. That was one of the big critical ones. Centralizing your training records. A lot of governmental agencies are required on a certain periodical basis to report what they're spending on training. And it was becoming increasingly difficult to do that across a lot of sub-agencies and departments and organizations within the higher level federal departments themselves. So this provided a kind of a one-stop shop place to maintain all those records and get a better handle on who's getting trained on what and how much the agency is spending. But as these programs have evolved, a lot of other benefits have come out of that, and looking at these as being resources to really provide opportunities for employees for career growth and development, that they can improve the skills that they have, gain new skills, especially those that could be used to apply for positions at a higher level. And also aligning a lot of these position requirements and these skills and abilities that are being gained with the attainment of competencies in training and pulling that together into even succession planning. So these things have evolved significantly over time. However, there are a number of challenges that organizations still face today. They faced initially when these things were rolled out, especially we find with those organizations that had a number of legacy systems that were combined into enterprise solution. The users were resistant to the change. They were used to what they were using. They didn't feel the need to go to anything else. They, down at their level within your organization, because of their job duties and what the requirements are, that they're not required to think at a larger level in what this can do for an enterprise solution. As they dove into the new learning management system or training talent management systems to take their mandatory training, they were confused by the interface. And there was a lot of perception that was built up that initially if mandatory training was placed in these systems, that was what it was predominantly for. Not a whole lot of insight in the other things that it had to offer, and as a result, the utilization was lower. At a higher level within organizations, our experiences showed us that a lot of the business units had difficulties really understanding how to take the capabilities of these talent management systems and map them into their current business practices, how they could use technologies not only to support achieving their overall mission goals, but also to make their processes more efficient so they can focus in on the critical mission of the department and not let training and all the elements related to it become a distraction against that mission. And then organizations had difficulties really understanding, we've spent this much money, we've got all these organizational goals, we want to improve the performance of our personnel, we want to provide them developmental opportunities, but we have no idea how to measure success. And beyond that, we don't know if we're getting the value out of these systems that we would hope to get based on the dollars we're spending. Now, a lot of the things that we're going to cover today really will give you some ideas and concepts and things that we've actually executed and put in place in different departments in the federal sector to overcome some of these challenges and to build up that positive perception and to realize the value that these systems can provide. And that's what we're going to dive into next. The first step of the process is really building awareness. We want to make our personnel more aware of what is available. Not only from a department standpoint, what's available to them and support them in their jobs, but what's available to them personally. How can they grow? How can they improve? What benefit can they get? What are the WIFMs? What's in it for me kind of things. So we want to build awareness. The advantages of building awareness is that first step to engage with your audience. And what I mean by audience is the audience at all levels, whether it's your employees, your supervisors, your leadership, your management, to begin engaging with them and promoting your benefits and advantages to them. And in turn, in doing that, you kind of build up a little trust and loyalty that the product that you're offering can be a benefit to them, and you can overcome and shape some of those perceptions about what your talent management systems have to offer. Now, the first step in building that awareness is building a brand. Brands become very important. We as a society are constantly surrounded by brands. You can look at a logo in a shopping mall or in a store and identify based on that logo what product is being offered, the quality of that product, and its perception within the general public, whether it's positive or negative. So starting off by building a brand, creating even a simple logo that is clear and concise as to who you are as an organization, with maybe a little bit put in there to kind of balance into what your organization is as a culture, then you can start build towards that end goal of your personnel seeing this logo, seeing this icon, seeing this brand, and identifying, I know what that is. I know what that has to offer to me just by seeing that logo. But expanding beyond that, it's more than just the logo. It's building a message. It's identifying for your targeted audience, here's who we are, but here's what we have to offer. And reminding them that it's more than just what they initially thought. The talent management systems are there to provide a service to them, to provide a benefit to them. It's not something to be deemed as being a burden or a place where they have to go take care of a chore. It needs to be viewed as a tangible benefit for their own career growth and development. And as you utilize your brand identity and targeted messaging, you can start building that positive perception. The slide that we have up now is an example that we did for the United States Postal Service that really kind of just highlighted, here's who we are, here's what we have to offer, here's what's in it for you, and here's why what we do for you should matter. Moving to the next slide. Likewise, we've done the same at the Department of Agriculture, and as you see from this slide, it's more than just posters and messaging. It transcends beyond that to a lot of different product offerings. And what I mean by product offerings is products and services that you offer to your targeted audience or your customer base as we perceive them, and a lot of different ways where you retain that brand identity throughout the different mediums that you put in there, and you put a seamless methodology behind how you're relaying things out so that no matter what device is being used, no matter how the person is getting their experience or what they're getting from the talent management systems, it has that same sense and feel of this is who we are as an organization, this is what we have to offer for you. Go ahead and next slide. And here's another example that we did for ATF as well. But it's more than just your talent management systems. Next slide. These kinds of techniques can also be used for specific features. Here's an example of one that we just completed recently for Department of Veterans Affairs, and really helping them get that identity and awareness out there of what's available for a specific feature. In this particular case, it's the individual development plan capability within their talent management system. So this begins the process of really pulling people in and really reminding them that there's much more to offer than what you initially think. Come check us out. So it's more of a, we're going to push a little bit out, but we're going to try and pull your interest. Now, beyond the first step, that's going to start getting some people enticed to come into your talent management systems and start being a little bit more involved in what it can offer to them. But it doesn't do anything in and of itself initially to overcome any of the perceptions that they've had or any of the challenges that they've faced when they've attempted to use the system before. And that's where we get to the next step, where we're working to drive positive perceptions and really improve their the user acceptance of these talent management systems. Now, some of the steps we're going to talk about today really are working towards creating a more positive user experience. It's the after they log in, the overcoming the difficulties they have with the interface, really getting them a sense of comfortability with how to use it, how to get access to what they want, and getting what they can get from that. gaining buy-in from them, and in turn, in doing so, starting to work towards that word of mouth and spreading the word to other folks and getting people in there more often and increasing that utilization, which is a critical element foundationally for being able to start to identify what kind of return on investment you're really getting for the dollars you're spending on these programs. And some of the methods we've used in the past, I've done a little bit of LMS customization. I know that C word is very scary to everyone, but these kinds of customizations are at the presentation level. It's meant to put seamlessness between different elements of the talent management systems, whether it's splash page seamlessly into the landing page when you've logged in, or if it's layering things over top of that presentation interface to kind of assist the users in their use of these talent management systems. It does not intrinsically get down into the depth of the code and link to that depth within your talent management systems. We utilize what's already available within the talent management systems to support these kinds of customizations. This is one example where we've added some seamlessness between different landing pages and home pages within the talent management system. Likewise, CrossPlatform. One thing that will help an individual become better used to how to use an interface is if no matter which device they're using to access that user interface, they get the same experience no matter where they go. It's the same look and feel, it's the same buttons. They know when they click something what's going to result from that, whether they're on their PC, on their iPhone, on a tablet, you name it. And this is another one of those layering over customizations that we did for a period of time at the Department of Agriculture. One of the challenges that they had with some of their users was difficulty finding things in the catalog. And there were a couple of particular features within their talent management system that users were having a little bit of difficulty understanding how to use. So we put contextual-based pop-ups and how-to tips, again, layered over the presentation layer, so that when, for instance, they went to go search their catalog, the pop-up tip showed up and said, hey, if you really want to open up this list, you need to click this triangle. Or if you really want to get a better understanding how to fill out this SF-182, why don't you click here, read a little bit what we have to offer here before you fill out your form. And the larger customization was a pop-up window. We found that there was a core set of courses at the time that were accessed more than a lot others. And these were common courses, too, that can support learning regardless of what your position, like Microsoft Excel, PowerPoint, those kinds of things, dealing with stress. So we created this mega pop-up, which was, tabbed interface, drop-down lists, and each one of these different links here actually directly linked them within the system to the course details page where they could either put it on their learning plans or launch it straight away. So that it eliminated the need to go find it. Some of these customizations aren't in place any longer. They have a life cycle of themselves too, because as people become more accustomed to how to use the interface and find things, a lot of the general purpose and benefit, not necessarily the benefit, but the immediate need of these things gradually went away because the individuals were able to self-educate themselves on where to go and what to do. Now, but that's only a part of the problem. It's the challenge that just discusses the challenges of individuals really navigating the interface and making some things a little bit easier for them. But that's only going to carry them so far. There's only so much customization and overlaying that you can do before you just become inundated with windows. So you help them on the other side. You put together training resources that provide them the details down to the nth degree of being able to figure out how to do different things within your talent management system. They really help them understand how to use it, where to go to get certain things done. These training resources have proven themselves to mitigate common frustrations, and more importantly, they really empower users to start beginning to understand how to figure out things for themselves and resolve some of the questions that they have with getting the most out of the talent management systems, which in turn diminishes the burdens on support staff. every time you lay out a new feature within the talent management system, we've noticed that help desk calls spike. And it's not that, you know, that they're just having so much difficulty with it. It's just they haven't taken advantage of all the resources that they have available to them in order to understand how to use that feature. So the methods that we've seen that work the best, especially when rolling out new features, is get out ahead of it. Build that awareness ahead of it, provide training materials ahead of it being rolled out so that when it does get rolled out, they already know it's coming, they already know how to use it, they're already familiar with it, and they know where they can go to get questions answered, and they're less fearful of adding a new capability within this technology. Some of the training resources that we've put together, simple flick sheets, training guides. Originally these were print-based. Over time they've evolved to searchable online resources, and with a lot of front-end communications just to build awareness on their availability and how to find them. We've also developed some online user and administrator training that actually just takes the user into the interface itself. It describes for them what each element is, what it's for, how it works, and even walks them through a guided scenario through using certain elements within the system, and gives them a little opportunity to test themselves and see whether or not they can, you know, do the process themselves and learn from it. This is on both sides. On the user side, we've looked at just the general user course just to kind of guide them through and navigate through the whole interface for them, but also on specific features like the SF-182, EIDPs, supervisory functions, and some user-based reporting. And then the administrative side, we really focus on role-based administration, and that's all determined and defined by the organization, how they have set up their roles. But beyond that, we're starting to work towards making these training resources even more available through interactive ebooks, setting up social media so that it's not only the programs themselves pushing information out, but you're building a community where like-minded users and administrators can come together and, you know, discover amongst themselves and discuss amongst themselves new ways to do things, or find out from a general community of practice how things have been done in the past, what's proven successful. Again, all for the goal of really motivating these users and the administrators to start self-sustaining their responsibilities within the system, and making that community around that support to alleviate the burden on the central program office. Because most organizations that we've seen, they have upwards of anywhere from 100 to 300,000 users, and anywhere from 2,000 to 10,000 administrators. It's kind of hard to staff a group at the program level to provide support for all of those folks without some means for those individuals to get the answers they need on their own. And it's better for them too. If anybody tells me how to do something, it's great the first couple times. But in order to empower me to be able to do that on a consistent basis, I notice if I take the time to learn it myself, it's much better for me in the long run. And we're also starting to port some of these things over into mobile applications too. And in some cases, making those access to the training on mobile applications seamless. So that regardless of which device you use to launch the course, you're able to pick up where you left off no matter which other device you've gone to. You can begin it on your PC, continue working on the training using your iPad, jump back on the computer at home, and finish up where you left off. Now, these first three areas, really building awareness, driving perceptions, providing training resources, are all for the purpose of really pulling people towards utilizing the TMS and taking advantage of all the features it has to offer. But like I've said earlier on in the presentation, this can only take you so far. At some point in time, you'll have to start getting a little bit more in depth, and what we've noticed from our experience, and has proven to be more successful, is really starting pulling individual interest in to blocks of training, blocks of capability, blocks of features within the talent management systems to really fully realize that benefit on an individual basis. So, by increasing the utilization, what it does for you is it helps to build the foundation for measuring your success. There's no clear-cut definition for success measurement. That's one of those things that's all based on the culture of your organization, the mission of your organization as to how you define success. What's important, though, is understanding how the activities and utilization within the talent management systems can support success measurement. There are ways that you can take those activities and balance them against any one of your mission goals and help you build up that baseline to support ROI calculations. Now, some of the methods we've used to really get down to that detailed, in-depth level to really make folks aware of specific training opportunities and that can benefit them in their job careers and them personally. We've utilized online newsletters. It talks a little bit about not only what's happening with the talent management system, maybe new features that are being rolled out, but also highlights a series of courses that could be important to a target audience or even a bulk audience. Each one of these products that were put together, though, like the tabbed interface, were done with deep links, again, making it easy for them to find that training. It's announcing to them in the newsletter and letting them see, okay, I just have to click this link. I'm interested in this, and it will take me right there. Likewise, there's the communities and really building off that, especially in the social media, to get that word of mouth spread about new blocks of offerings, new training courses that can benefit targeted in bulk audiences. We've done this through social networking, blogs, forums, setting up SharePoint sites, just bounding audiences together in common interests and making them aware of what is there to support them, but also making it easier for them to find. And then finally, we've done some bulk and targeted email campaigns. Looking at job series, bringing up in this particular case the job series for a lot of the human resource professionals, and just giving them a brief email on, hey, you're in HR, here's some courses that may help you out and learn some things about what's coming down the pipe and what's new with HR, what new practices have been put in place within the general industry. And again, each one of these underlined items is a direct link taking them to the course where they can launch it or put it on their to-do list, eliminating that need to go out and find it. And we've noticed once we've gotten to this phase, utilization, not only for online training, but just in general, a lot of the features and capabilities within the system, like SF1A2s, like EIDPs, connections to online training, connections to products like Books 24/7, that really began to grow to the point where we saw a good sizable means and ability to start measuring how effective these individual communications were. And that's where we want to get into metrics measurement and ROI analysis. You're starting to get that utilization there. What data do you collect and what do you do with it? Now, metrics and ROI, the only purpose and the only reason to ever measure any metric is, one, to show you're getting a return on your investment, and two, to show that you're meeting a mission or organizational goal. Other than that, it's an effort that's nice to look at a lot of the numbers, but that's where you're going to gain the most benefit from it, is taking it down those two paths, and recommended both paths. Because once you get those metrics measured in ROI, it really will help you quantify the results to support any established goals that you have, whether it's goals for your own program or tying them into mission goals of your departments. It will help provide a basis for cost avoidance. Now, let me explain to you what cost avoidance is. When you go and buy something at the store, you got it on sale for, say, $6, and it normally runs for $10. You didn't really save $4. What you did was you avoided $4 in cost. The only thing that you ever can get from, a savings standpoint is you put it in the bank and you leave it there and you don't touch it. So when we start looking at the talent management system and the personnel activities in there, we start looking at things in measurements of time. How much time did this individual save by participating in this training or using this feature within the talent management system, as opposed to taking that training or using traditional methodology, a paper-based form that was the equivalent, past equivalent of that online feature. It's that time savings or that time impact avoided that can be used to calculate your cost avoidance. But building up that cost avoidance and comparing that to the cost of the programs helps you identify the value the program is providing to your department. And in some cases, you can use that to obtain executive leadership buy-in, even up front before features are rolled out. By our estimates, we believe these efficiencies will be put in place by rolling out this feature, and here's what that equates to in cost avoided, because the time it's now going to take is far less than what it is to these paper-based traditional methodologies. And ultimately, as has been the case in one organizations we work with, this cost avoidance model has been used to justify their budget. And over the course of the last 3 years, there hasn't been a significant challenge them in obtaining the budget they needed to support that program moving forward. So what are some of the things that you can measure? This right here is a measurement of those communications, those targeted and bulk communications. What we've done here is we would take a snapshot in time. How many people had a particular training course on their learning plans or their to-do list? Or how many people had it completed prior to sending the communication out? And then we would send that communication out, wait a period of time, usually a couple of weeks, not a significant length of time, and take that measurement again just to see what percentage increase that we would get. And we noticed time in and time out, from a percentage standpoint, there were large increases. From a volume standpoint, obviously if you've got 100 and 200,000 users, it's not necessarily going to be there from a volume standpoint. But if you look at each individual case and you start building upon those, over time that volume will be there as well. And again, you get that a little bit of that spread of word of mouth for like-minded professionals when that announcement comes out as well. So that's one of the first steps in kind of the success measurement that you can take just to see how effective those communications are. Moving beyond that, we created this scorecard for the Department of Agriculture. And in that case, people ask us, well, what do you measure there? Well, the question you should be asking is, what don't we measure? Because we measure everything. We look at all the activities that are being performed in there, and we base off those activities specific but conservative calculations on what that meant in time avoidance and thus ultimately cost avoidance, so that we can show on a month in and month out basis, here's how much we spent on the program this month. Here's what we got in return in cost avoidance based on these activities, and this is my return on investment for this month. So we started looking at these over time, and in looking at this from month to month, it was very difficult to notice trends. We really couldn't tell, why discretionary training was high one month and it went down a different month. Discretionary training being any online training that an individual took that wasn't required to them because it was mandatory training or wasn't part of some mission need or core critical need for their job function. It's something they chose to go in there themselves and take for their own edification. So we started noticing these trends, but we couldn't really put our finger on it what was really accomplishing that. So we built upon these individual scorecards and started doing trend analysis. And we put together a trend really looking from month to month, year to year, both individually month as well as cumulatively, to see if we can identify, different spikes of activities, whether it was a spike up or a spike down, and really reflect upon, what occurred that given month to cause that to happen. If we had a huge spike up, is there something that we can repeat to generate that success again? Or if there was a spike down, was there a reason why? Is it something that we can change? If it was due to a period of time where you were dark because of not a customization, but an update or an upgrade, then that's understandable. If it was a period of time where maybe discretionary training dropped but mandatory training went up, then you kind of understand that. They stopped taking training for themselves because they had specific things that they were required to do. It's those one-off month areas where you see a drop in something and you have no tangible reason or understanding why. Until we started doing these trend analysis, we couldn't even identify when those were occurring from month to month, let alone from year to year. This model right now is actually in its 4th year of existence. It's really helped identify areas where we can improve upon how we're presenting ourselves out to the organization, whether or not a lack of communications maybe played an impact, or maybe we could send out more communications or clearer communications, or maybe we've inundated one audience too much and we need to switch to another one. It really helped us identify what are some of the common causes behind it, even to the extent of being able to do standard deviation analysis that takes a lot of these dips and spikes in the graphs and puts it into mathematical numbers for you, and it's more easily identifiable. But we can't forget, as we measure the trends and as we identify the cost avoidance and the return on investment, we can't ever forget what this is all about. And what it all comes down to is, are the employees, are the supervisors, is everyone within your organization getting the value out of the training that they could possibly get? What is this training doing for? Is it meaningful to them? So we can't ever forget that part of this is also taking a good look at results back from the training participation themselves. Putting surveys on at the end of your courses, and you see a couple of sample questions here where we took a look at each month. Rate your knowledge of this topical area prior to taking the training. Now rate it after you've taken this. And have we seen some growth there? And that let this particular organization know that there's a positive gain not only in cost avoided, but a positive gain in their own personnel's belief in the knowledge that they're gaining from that as well. So this process, and I know I kind of presented things and started things off as if, the beginning of an LMS program. This really can be put in place no matter where you're at in the life cycle of your programs. And it can be put in place in smaller or larger scale, whether it's for the entire talent management system or a particular feature. It's just what we've found based on our experience working with a number of organizations, something that's helped progress the process of getting over those negative perceptions, getting higher utilization and acceptance, and really turning these talent management systems into something that's not just a technology out there to kind of support this, but a resource for their daily lives, just for their own edification and their own growth and development, and how they can improve as professionals for what this has to offer, and even taking it as far as it being listed as a tangible benefit for these departments when they're trying to recruit and hire new personnel. So our path to success that we've worked through here is to begin by building awareness that creates interest in what the TMS has to offer, working to build that positive perception to eliminate confusion, improve the user acceptance to support their use of the system, mitigate their fear of technology or their frustrations with the technology, work to communicate to help build that utilization so that you have that foundation to quantify the positive gains that you're getting from those previous steps, identifying and establishing solid metrics for success and beginning to work to measure those. And it will help guide operational how you are as an organization, as a talent management system program. It'll help guide your activities based on the results and using those results to tailor your product offering to your customer base to elicit more participation and more interest in what you have to offer to them, so that eventually you can show value and help justify your program budget with your superiors. Then just rinse and repeat. It's an evolving process, just like your employee base is forever evolving. People retire, new people come in. This process evolves over time, and it is cyclical.
Thank you, Dwayne, for sharing your presentation with us this afternoon. We would now like to ask if you have any questions. We are asking that you use the chat function and have posted the instructions on how to share your questions with us. So I'm going to ask the participants if they have any questions to go ahead and use the chat function now, and we're going to wait for some questions to pop up and then go through the questions that have been submitted. So I see that we have our very first question that's been posted, and that question says, I've been having a difficult time getting my leadership team to champion my new talent management system. How can I convince them this is a valuable enterprise program?
That is a multi-layered question with multi-layered answers. There's several methods. If you feel that, or believe that, or understand or know that the level of utilization that you have within your system is of a sufficient enough level to where you could calculate a pretty sizable cost avoidance and intangible benefit off that, that's one way. Because you can show them the value of, traditionally, here's what it would have taken to accomplish the same things that we're accomplishing this way, and this is the economic value that we're getting. Beyond that, especially as it relates to specific features, leaders want to see buy-in from the front line. They want to see buy-in from the organizations that are going to get the most use out of these technologies before they'll completely wed themselves into it. So in part, you can present those tangible benefits to those specific organizations, to your leadership, but nothing goes better than conducting a pilot and getting some of those targeted audiences to come in and try out different features within the talent management system, get their feedback, alleviate their concerns, and then presenting that information to your leadership. Once leadership knows that going down a path is not going to create them any heartaches or create any challenges for them that they would have to overcome, then they're more willing to step in and support you. So you have two methods there, and really alleviating any leadership fear in how complex or how involved or how difficult it may be for them to have this kind of rolled out within your organization, and on the other side, showing that tangible cost benefit. I would push more towards the piloting route, especially if you're early on in your LMS program, or if you're in a position where you may be considering making a significant change in the technology you have to something else, rather than diving right into that kind of cost avoidance, because the utilization numbers may just not be there for you.
Thank you, Dwayne. And we have a second question, and that question is, we went enterprise-wide with our TMS a year ago, and I want to start measuring metrics, but I am fearful because our utilization is low. So what do you advise?
Well, there's nothing ever wrong to measuring metrics, measuring utilization at any given time. Where I would caution you is presenting that information up the chain until you've had a chance to realize what it means to you. Simple things in just looking at online course completions, SF1E2s completed if you've got that feature rolled out and you have that capability built in, If you're connected to Books 24/7, basically just measure as many of the activities as you have available on a monthly basis and compare that to the population that can access your talent management system. And if that ratio is very, very, very low, then I would kind of hold off on really looking at metrics from a standpoint of publishing them or presenting them up the chain, and focus more attention on building utilization up through kind of the techniques that we've laid out today with building awareness and communications campaigns and kind of supporting the individual users and administrators and alleviating any of the technical challenges that they have.
Our next question is, how can I map metrics measurement to overall departmental performance goals?
This is another one of those situational questions. It all is dependent upon, one, the culture of your organization, two, the maturity of your LMS program, and three, what it boils down to is organizational goals, focusing on the ones that are more tied to training. And I'll give you just an example that, not a realistic example, but just kind of, I think, an example that would work. You know, say you're an agency like our sub-agency, like Farm Services Inspection Service. They have specific goals and objectives that they want to accomplish on an annual basis. They do the meat inspections. Maybe one of their organizational goals is to minimize the number of bad reports they get on inspections from their meat processing plants. Well, one way to tie a goal into that is, what training do you have available within your talent management systems to support educating people on how to do the right thing and pass those inspections and everything be up to code? How well are you getting that training out? So you can tie training in a specific topical area into achieving a particular mission-related goal, and then you can measure yourself. All right, last year, these are the average reports that were returned on the inspections of these meat processing plants, and here's the number of people that took these courses related to that. Now let's publicize these courses. Let's get more people taking it. Let's build a utilization of these courses, and then look at the end of the year and see if did the inspections, come back with less material errors than were the previous year. So you can show a tangible connection between the benefit that your training is offering to obtaining a mission goal. So that's not a realistic one, but it could be a realistic one.
Thank you, Dwayne. Our next question is, how do you go about calculating what your cost avoidance and ROI is based on simple TMS activities?
I kind of alluded to this when we hit to that section. It's really, you're looking at time. I like to say time savings, but it's really not time savings. You're avoiding wasting time, and it's not even really wasting time. You're avoiding the time it takes to accomplish a particular goal using traditional methodologies, as opposed to the time benefits that come from utilizing technology. And I'll give you an example. Say, for instance, traditionally, I wanted to take a class on Excel. Okay, I would look at the local area training institutions, identify a course, sign up for it, register, pay my tuition, travel to and from there. Even if it's local, I'm driving to it. It's time away from the office. I've spent 2 days at 16 hours of training. Can I get a similar benefit to what that course had to offer by taking these online training courses? How much time am I spending in those online courses? How much am I avoiding in time just in travel? How much am I avoiding in time based on me taking 4 hours of online training as opposed to 2 days worth of training courses? And you identify what that time differential is, and then you balance that against, if you want to go in a simplistic model, against what we've found to be the average salary for a federal worker being a GS-9 Step 5. You can get into a little bit more depth, though, and actually, calculate this out based on the average GS levels of all the folks that took online training. But that builds a conservative model of equating I saved or avoided having to use this time by taking it online, and that equates to this much dollars of cost avoidance.
Thank you. Our next question is, with sequestration and budget challenges, how do you defend your talent management system program?
That's a great question as well, and it all boils down to showing in clear-cut numbers, here's what we're spending to support this program, and here's what I've calculated and the cost that I'm avoiding by having this available for personnel to take training this way or utilize these electronic features rather than traditional methodologies. This is the return on investment. This is building value for the organization. It's avoiding costs that can be consumed somewhere else. That has been by far the easiest way to defend the budget against sequestration. Now, unfortunately, there are portions of sequestration. There are organizations that it's unavoidable. So you kind of have to, instead of just avoid it altogether, work to mitigate it, work to communicate, what kind of an impact it would be on the service offering. Because most talent management organizations should or do already see themselves as a customer service center. You're providing a service to the employees within your departments. They are your customers. I know that's a little bit loosely spoken because there's usually policy and departmental regulation to back up what you're doing. But taking that approach for your customer base not only helps with their perception, but helps you go to your management and say, these are our customers. This is how we have to support them, and this is what we're going to have to back away from doing. So that's a couple of methodologies. It's not foolproof, but it's about the best you can hope for.
We've received some really great questions from the webinar, so please don't hesitate to submit any additional questions that you may have. Our next question is, have you had any client organization implement all of these ideas, and how successful were their efforts?
All the organizations that we've worked with, we've done little pieces here and there, but the one organization I can point to where we've actually cradle to grave done this entire process is the Department of Agriculture, and that's kind of why I asked them to join us a little bit today, and I know, Todd, you're on the phone. What was the result of these efforts? And this is a continuing effort that's been going on for the last 4 years. And in my last check on the metrics that we've put together for them, they're averaging about $20 to $26 million in cost avoidance on the annual basis, or in effect, around 500% return on investment on the annual basis compared to what they're spending to maintain this program. I'm sorry, what was that? It was an echo? Okay. We have not sat down and done a complete break-even point analysis, but just in looking at the numbers over the last 4 years, I would be very surprised if they didn't break even sometime 3 years ago. So that right now, the benefit that they're getting from this system is far outpacing the cost it has taken to support it.
Any other questions from our webinar participants? Since we're not seeing anything else come up in the chat section, I think we're going to wrap up our session today. We want to thank everyone for joining us for our Talent Management System webinar, and our contact information is there for you. Again, I'm Gail Lazaroff, and Dwayne Cuddy was our presenter for the webinar today. If you have questions after the fact that you would like to submit to us, please do not hesitate to either call us or to email us. And again, from Adiana, we want to thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.